Okay, we can start.
Hey Dan, I was wondering, what would you do for a final boss? Are you gonna do a specific um, character from a certain series, like they did with TVC with Okami, or would you rather kind of have like maybe an amalgamation? Like, what do you plan to do with that?
We do have a final boss that we're not quite ready to talk about now. I will say that the conundrum that you raised, which is do we draw from one of these IP in particular and have that be the boss of the game versus perhaps something that's a little more broad, was one that it's definitely a question that we had. I'm really happy with where we ended up, but I'm not going to tell you where. But stay tuned. I think you guys, especially if you're fans of PlayStation, our boss will make a lot of sense.
Hey.
This game has a lot of similarities to Smash Brothers. How have you decided? Have you considered taking input from the competitive Smash Brothers community in terms of how to kind of have input in your game? And if so, what type of input would you like from the competitive Smash Brothers community?
Yeah, we definitely acknowledge that there are similarities. We've got guys on the team who are really big Smash players. At the same time, I think, and this is something that I've been told more so than I'm trying to convince you guys of, once you play the game, I think on a fundamental level, it's very different from Smash. If I wouldn't be so bold to say if you like Smash, you'll love PlayStation All-Stars. I just don't think the gameplay translates that directly, and I can make that assumption. At the same time, I'd love it, if Smash players also embrace PlayStation All-Stars. It's really something that I think the individual players are going to have to make a determination of, and the community is going to have to make a determination of. We're open to all feedback. That's why we brought the game here to EVO. You guys are the first sort of on the consumer level people that have ever had a chance to play the game. We're definitely interested in your feedback and what you guys think, so please stop and tell us. You'll see us walking around. We're going to have more events where we try to get you guys playing the game and try to get you guys included, because we do care what you have to say. But I will say we are doing something that, while it does borrow from a lot of games and a lot of conventions, also does offer something new. So approaching it with an open mind is something that I'd ask you all to do.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I want anyone who's even slightly interested in the game to know that whether they come from a Smash background, fighting game background, or just a video game background, that the lines of communication I definitely want to keep open. So any input that you guys have on the game, whether you love it or you hate it, we're definitely listening. I read the forums all the time. I'm a forum junkie. So it really helps us to shape the game if we have really constructive feedback towards it.
Also, I'd like to say that we're at the stage in our game where we're always doing this, but right now we're doing a lot of heavy balance tweaks or just character tweaks. So now is a good time, if you say, hey, this move seems not that good, or this move seems really good, or whatever, right? You can go over there and play it, and we are definitely open to hearing suggestions. We'd love to hear it. I personally want to hear it, so yeah, just want you guys to know that.
Yeah, we also have at the station, there's some Sony tablets that you can actually give your feedback on, and we'll record, and then we're all going to get all that information and collect it at the end of this and go over it. So if you can't find us or you feel uncomfortable talking to us directly, go play the game for a bit and then take a chance to fill out the survey, add your notes, comments. We're going to check them out.
We don't bite.
I was wondering how much you guys could talk about, I guess, what really happened to Title Fight, or how much you guys could really talk about it at all.
About the name Title Fight?
Yeah, I guess, as well as the fact that even before PlayStation All-Stars, kind of the title of I guess the retitling of going from Title Fight to PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and the kind of situation, because I guess there were a lot of people posting Twitter pictures of the game a little bit early.
Yeah, so Title Fight was essentially an internal code name to refer to the game. It was never an official title by any means. when it came around to ultimately coming up with what we were going to call the game, Title Fight was in contention. It's just we ultimately settled on PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. So you made reference to some early excitement about the game that led to people talking about it perhaps more than or earlier than we would have hoped. But and I think that's where the code name came from. But there was never an official name change in so much that Title Fight was never the name of the game to start with.
Okay, and actually, last bit of a question: did you guys have any other names for the game besides Title Fight or PlayStation All Stars that you guys would be willing to share?
No.
Thanks.
All right, I actually have three-part questions. I myself come from a Smash and fighting game background, so I noticed like the gameplay and it has a lot of similarities between normal fighting games and Smash games. So one of my things I noticed for Smash was that the training mode in that game versus most fighting games is just awful. Do you guys have plans to implement like a special kind of training mode? And I guess kind of going along with more character balancing, what are kind of the methodology you guys are using to balance the characters? Like, are you using one as a template and going through there? Or are you trying to have everyone have an ability to counter stuff? Yeah.
Regarding the first question, we are very cognizant of, again, of the fact that we're going to have people who come to this game who maybe never played a fighting game before, but also we know that we're going to have people who play this game who are fighting game enthusiasts, and we want to cover both of those bases. So we're going to have some traditional tutorial mechanics. We also have a single-player combat trial mode that is really just a host of different challenges, that the goal of which is to get you familiar with these characters and the mechanics and the systems in our game. So it's kind of like edutainment, where you'll have some fun being challenged, but you'll also learn a bit. And then, of course, we're going to have a traditional practice mode as sort of mainstay of that genre, where you can just select a character, select a stage, select a training dummy, and really go to town trying to figure out the ins and outs of your character. So we think you'll be pleased with our training and practice options.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, not only just us on this panel, but a lot of the SuperBot team, we are gamers, we are fighting gamers, and we know what we like, and we've tried to implement, the things that, we know we like and we know that you like into the game, and I hope it's taken that way.
Oh, what was the second part?
Balance.
Yeah. Oh, balance, yeah.
Well, I mean, the way we approach characters is, like I said before, we try to celebrate the IP, and we make sure that the characters got that excitement and.
We run wild with them.
Yeah, we kind of open the floodgates, and we think if we find a really cool, interesting moveset for a character, or something like Heihachi, right, where he throws like a bowling pin at you and things like that, right? We let the floodgates open to that. If we started by looking at the end of a game like Tekken and looking at the balance of that, and then trying to work backwards and create a character that way, you would end up with everybody doing down forward twos and or a Ryu equivalent, doing low forward fireballs and stuff like that. And I think what really stands out in our game is how far apart some of these characters are from playstyle wise. And then from there, it's just a matter of, there's a ton of fighting game mechanics, and there's all kinds of problems that have already been solved, and most of the time it's just finding the right sort of knob to tweak at the right time, and just how much. So, I mean, we kind of do it in the exact opposite way, is to kind of answer your question. We kind of make everybody equally overpowered, and then that makes them balanced. So.
And we do have extensive playtime at the office as well, so we're making sure that we get a good feel for the characters before we start making those changes.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So my question's a little bit premature. I have two questions. One was premature, the other one I think is kind of reasonable. My premature question is about DLC. The only reason why I ask is that there are several video games that are coming out now. Some of them are fighting, some of them are not, but some of them will completely ban the thought of ever having DLC in their game. I was wondering what your guys' take on it.
So DLC is something we're kind of treating as we'll use it when we need it. We're going to try to get as much into this game as possible, and I think, we're already seeing a little bit of this now, that there's just stuff that the fans are still asking for that we know we're not going to ultimately have time to get to by October 23rd. And that's kind of how we'll use DLC to sort of meet the demands that come after the point that we're able to address them on disc. It's kind of a double-edged, particularly when it comes to fighting games, because I think the fans, there's a portion of the fans who love the extendability that DLC adds to the game, but then I also know that, from a fighting perspective, sometimes adding a character, for instance, as DLC can cause a little bit of chaos, but it's something we're monitoring, and we're just going to try to get to as much of the game as we can on the disc.
My second question is, as far as meter building and meter management goes for the game, does all the characters pretty much gain meter at the same rate, or are there certain characters that gain meter, or for that matter, hold on to meter, considering that they lose it when they get thrown? Are there certain characters that hold on to extra meter? Do you guys ever consider putting that into the game, or do you guys just make it the same throughout?
We definitely have a sort of global metric that we use to determine whether or not a character is accruing AP at a reasonable rate. If you think about, I think Ed had a really good analogy, is like your sort of the economy of the game. If you think about it almost like a real-time strategy, where you're always sending dudes to the mine to go get gold. That's how we think about energy and sort of that fuels your supers. So we look at how much energy a character is able to accumulate over time, and that's a very valuable metric for us to use to determine whether or not a character is better or worse than they should be.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is about character decisions. What influences your character picks of who should be and who should not be in the game? I ask this because you have guys like Nathan Drake, who's primarily from a PlayStation brand, but you also have like the Big Daddy from BioShock, which was a game that was only available on non-PlayStation systems for the first time it was launched.
Yeah, I think this is. I'm glad you asked this question, because I think more than anything else, this is what lights the internet up, is sort of what goes into our character selection. I sort of oversimplify it, I think, when I talk to a lot of the press and I say, oh, we just listen to the fans. If we just listen to the fans, we'd have 1,000 characters on our roster. There are other factors that determine exactly who goes in. I think if we stuck to a very narrow definition of what characters can go into PlayStation All-Stars, I think that might be a little limiting. If we said, oh, a character like Big Daddy, because he appeared on the 360 first, he's just excluded. I think that would be denying us and our game the opportunity to have an interesting character like Big Daddy. I think he does bring something very, very interesting and unique to the game. I just think adding a character like Big Daddy to me is a benefit, and it certainly, I think, for a lot of people he is a character that they associate with the PlayStation. And I would encourage the people who are rooting for these characters not to feel so limited in thinking that, well, it's got to fit my rigid criteria for being what I consider a PlayStation character, or he just shouldn't go on this roster, because I just think that's going to ultimately hurt the game. I think Big Daddy makes the game better.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I have a couple of questions. Is there any plans for a PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale original soundtrack or OST, or are there no plans for that right now?
If there aren't plans, there should be, because I have to say, our soundtrack is actually really something amazing. I don't know if you guys know what we're doing with our soundtrack. So for our levels, we apply the mashup concept. So each one of our levels is this world meets this world. So the dojo, which we announced this week, is the combining of two different IP. And what happens is you'll start the track, and it's a Parappa the Rapper track, but it's actually a rearranged, a remixed version of that track. And then as the Mauler comes in, we actually bring in the Killzone music. And it's a remixed version of the Killzone track. And the versions of these songs that we're doing, they're just amazing. We have some play sessions that are just completely taken over by the fact that these players just want to play on this level so they can hear this cool music. I will be campaigning heavily for a soundtrack for our game, because there's actually some really cool stuff being made.
Okay, and will there be any hidden unlockables as you play through the game? Like, will characters be having alternate outfits or any kind of cool stuff for the roster?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Friday we announced that we're going to have the pre-order outfit. So if you guys pre-order the game, you'll get a set of outfits for every character. I think that's really cool.